Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host,
Shane Bigham, with you on this Tuesday, August 4th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, Iran denies any meetings or negotiations with the United States and says it'll defend its sovereignty from American aggression. 25 U.S. states have filed suit against the Trump administration over the president's Section 301 tariffs on most trading partners. In the 9th China-Germany Under-16 football friendship tournament in Jiangsu province. In business, rapid growth for China's artificial intelligence sector. In sports, a rising tennis star makes history at the DC Open. In culture and entertainment, Chinese artistic traditions and innovations on display in New York City. Now the day's top stories. Iran says no meetings have been scheduled with the United States. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian says the country will safeguard its national interests and has condemned joint U.S.-Saudi attacks on Iraqi militants. Tehran also says it's holding discussions with Oman over the Strait of Hormuz. Saper Sarami has more from Tehran.
Discussions centered on maritime security, diplomacy, and regional tensions. On the Strait of Hormuz, the Foreign Ministry spokesperson said Iran intends to consult with Oman as soon as possible to establish a temporary mechanism to ensure shipping safety. He stressed these are bilateral negotiations between the two coastal states. Responding to U.S. President Donald Trump's claim that negotiations with Iran were beginning, the spokesperson rejected the assertion, noting that Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is currently traveling for the Arbaeen pilgrimage, while the rest of Iran's negotiating team remains in the country.
We are not currently negotiating with the United States. Our talks are with Oman, and they are focused on reaching an understanding on a pathway to ensure the safe passage of shipping through the Strait of Hormuz.
Here on the ground, many Iranians appear increasingly tired of the recurring pattern of escalation followed by diplomacy. After years of military threats, sanctions, and uncertainty, public fatigue is growing as economic pressure intensifies.
That was Saper Sarami reporting. And meantime, U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran faces decapitation if it fails to strike a deal to end the conflict. And Trump also says negotiations are ongoing. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Once again, it's a tale of two cities, with Washington saying one thing, Tehran saying the other. Tehran says talks are not on, but Donald Trump is adamant that they are. He was speaking in the White House Oval Office. Unsurprisingly, he was asked for some clarification, because all of this has left people scratching their heads, and it would seem has left Donald Trump angry. Earlier on social media, Donald Trump accused Iranians of being unbelievably duplicitous, saying that they had begged for talks with Washington. During that Oval Office press conference, he also went on to say that this was now the last chance for Iran to sign a good document. He said he wanted to give them every last chance before, in his words, decapitation. This is all happening because Donald Trump had threatened once again a new round of very heavy strikes on the weekend, but then pulled back, saying that diplomacy was going ahead.
That was Nick Harper reporting. A senior Iranian official, Mohsen Rezai, says Iran would target any U.S. warships that attempt to impose a new route for vessels crossing the Strait of Hormuz.
We will, by no means, allow a second corridor in the Strait of Hormuz. Even if they deploy warships, we will target them.
Rezai, who is Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei's military advisor, also warned that Iran would strike U.S. ships and bases if Washington continued a naval blockade against Tehran. Diplomatic efforts are intensifying as Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan hold high-level talks to de-escalate tensions. The Iranian Foreign Ministry has held separate phone calls with his Saudi counterpart and Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff. Tehran says the talks reviewed the latest diplomatic initiatives aiming to maintain security and stability across the region. 6 supertankers under Saudi Arabia's flag have changed course after Yemen's Houthis threatened to target Saudi shipping. Tracking data shows the tankers sailing towards southern Africa instead of going through the southern Red Sea via the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. The new route's expected to add at least 25 more days of sailing time to the journey. The empty tankers are returning after delivering cargoes to destinations in Asia. Neither Riyadh nor the ship's operators have commented. The Houthi group declared a maritime embargo against Saudi Arabia on July 20th. And for more, Zhong Shi spoke to Wang Jin, an expert on Middle East studies.
Donald Trump's patience is visibly running thin, calling this Iran's last chance to make a deal. Days after he called off a major attack on Iran, does Iran take Trump's threats seriously?
From Iran's behaviors and activities, of course, Iran's always preparing for the next possible conflict coming back. But the problem is that we are actually looking at the very standoff between the United States and Iran. From Iran's perspective, that the United States is still preparing for the next round of attacks against targets inside Iran. And also, Iran also has the enough capabilities actually, to launch the counterattacks and deter the possible strikes from the United States. So that's why now the things enter in kind of the standoff. United States want the negotiation come back. Of course, Iran also doing something for that. But the division between the two sides is so apparent. So it's very difficult to end all this kind of the division within the short term. So that's why on the one hand, let's be frank, on the one hand, the possibilities of the war return still remain. But then on the other hand, the negotiation channel still remains. So that's why the standoff still there. So how to end the standoff is the very first problem right now and should get everybody's concern.
Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has urged Trump to pursue dialogue, which he says his administration is doing exactly that. But Donald Trump wants what he has always wanted from day one: unimpeded shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, as well as a complete stop to Iran's nuclear ambitions. The question now is, will dialogue do exactly that?
The problem is that, as we could see, that the communication channel always works. Although, let's be frank, the hostilities and distrust between Saudi Arabia and Iran become growing, but Saudi Arabia still hopes that the diplomatic channel should work and could work. And also, on the other hand, we look at the many regional countries such as Qatar, such as Oman, and even some other countries not belong to the traditional Gulf region, which is Pakistan. They always want to play the very important key role for the resumption of the diplomatic channel, for the resumption of the negotiation between the United States and Iran. So that's why I think diplomatic channel will be remained and will still work. And it's very always important to keep the communication channel between the United States and Iran accessible and also workable. So I think although the division appear, of course, between the United States and Iran, they are not easy to be end. But when the communication channel remains, it means that peace opportunities and the peace hope remain. So maybe it cannot work so sharply, so immediately, but I think someday it will work and it will still become the major foundation for the future pieces of chances in this region.
That was Middle East analyst Wang Jin talking about the tensions between the U.S. and Iran. And turning to Gaza, where ceasefire efforts remain stalled, with Israel and Hamas divided over the terms of the agreement. Israel's parliament extended the military's emergency mobilization order until September 30th, allowing the army to call up as many as 240,000 reservists. Israel says its troops will remain in Gaza until Hamas is fully disarmed and its tunnel network dismantled. Hamas says any discussions on weapons depend on Israel halting its military operations and withdrawing under the ceasefire agreement. The Israeli defense minister says the military now controls between 60 and 70% of Gaza. Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey say the latest Israeli attacks are undermining ceasefire efforts. Gaza health authorities say more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed since the ceasefire last October. The so-called Board of Peace says talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are underway on weapons decommissioning in Gaza and a transition to civilian governance. The board called the discussions constructive, saying both sides agreed on the goal of ending armed rule and moving towards civilian administration. It said Israeli forces would withdraw beyond the yellow line only after completing the decommissioning process. The line was established under the first phase of the Hamas-Israel ceasefire agreement. Implementation to be overseen by the International Stabilization Force and an implementation verification committee involving U.S. and board representatives. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has said that it killed 2 Hamas commanders in Gaza strikes. Coming up, many U.S. states have sued the Trump administration over Washington's latest tariffs.
Do you have a story about China? We want to hear from you. Maybe China has become your second home. Maybe it has brought you new friendships, creative partnerships, or a new path in life. We are inviting people from the U.S. to share their real stories and experiences with China. No expertise needed, just your authentic voice. Your story could be featured in our Hello from the Other Shore podcast coming this September. Share your name, city, and story with us. Email us at radio@cgtn.com.
At 10 past the hour. 25 U.S. states have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over Section 301 tariffs. They say the president exceeded legal authority by imposing sweeping tariffs on goods from 60 trading partners. The complaint challenges the recently enacted levies of 10 to 12.5% on the vast majority of goods imported from the affected economies, which collectively account for 99% of U.S. imports. The legal challenges center on the administration's efforts to preserve Trump's broad tariff regime after federal courts rejected two earlier versions imposed under different statutory frameworks. The coalition has asked the U.S. Court of International Trade to block the tariffs, declare them unlawful, and order refunds for the duties already paid. Members of the Economic Community of West African States have reaffirmed commitment to launching the ECO single currency by July of next year. It's part of the bloc's broader push to deepen regional economic integration. Discussions are continuing on critical issues such as the establishment of a regional central bank and the transition from existing national currencies. Eric Kawa reports from Freetown on what the ECO currency means for daily cross-border trade.
For trader Avril McFoy, business doesn't stop at the border. She regularly imports clothing and fashion accessories from Nigeria, Ghana, and other ECOWAS countries.
There's a lot of business transactions and trading going on throughout West Africa, beginning from Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia to Mali, Senegal, and Cote d'Ivoire. So, if you have that one currency, you don't need to convert or exchange any money. That will help us to get better profits and better businesses.
ECOWAS's latest approach will see the ECO introduced in phases, with countries that meet key economic benchmarks joining first.
For many of the traders here, business extends well beyond Sierra Leone's borders. They say that dealing with different currencies can create uncertainty when buying and selling goods across the region. ECOWAS hopes that the proposed ECO single currency could help address some of these challenges. But for now, much will depend on how and when the bloc's plans are put in place to ensure that the ECO currency comes to effect.
For the business community, the proposed ECO currency is seen as a potential step towards reducing barriers to regional trade.
The ECO should not be treated merely as a political symbol. It must be built on economic convergence, institutional credibility, private sector participation, and practical improvement in the movement of goods, services, capital, and people. The business community would therefore support a carefully managed and transparent phased implementation.
Economists, however, caution that introducing a common currency requires member states to maintain stable inflation, sustainable public finances, and agreement on how a regional central bank would operate.
Devoid the macroeconomic differences, each nation is also struggling to even meet these benchmarks that have been set in order for us to have the ECO in existence, in order for us to now be seeing it as something that should help in changing the narratives for our country. So I would say individual nations need to up their game, and when every other nation helps in making sure we get this, then I think Africa will be talking of so much goodies with respect to the ECO.
Regional leaders say technical discussions on the ECO will continue as countries work toward the next stage of implementation.
That was Eric Kawa reporting. Sudan's vast natural resources have become a key battleground in the ongoing conflict. Gold and gum Arabic exports are now under scrutiny, with the UN Agency for Human Rights warning revenue from these resources is funding the war. However, Sudanese economic experts have accused the international community of undue political pressure. Sharon Barunga has more.
Sudan's vast natural wealth, once seen as a pathway to economic prosperity, has become increasingly tied to the country's devastating conflict. The United Nations Human Rights Office says both sides in the war are benefiting from the illegal exploitation and smuggling of resources, including gold and gum Arabic, with revenues helping sustain armed operations. The UN warns that resources that should support millions of Sudanese people are instead contributing to prolonged fighting and humanitarian suffering. Sudan has been one of the world's largest producers of gum arabic, a key ingredient used in food, beverages, pharmaceuticals and other industries. Before the Sudanese army and paramilitary RSF war broke out in April 2023, Sudan supplied an estimated 70 to 80% of global crude gum arabic exports, generating millions of dollars in annual revenue. Some experts inside Sudan are now against international measures targeting the country's resource sector, saying the sanctions are politically motivated and could harm ordinary citizens.
The international community's stance on the whole aligns with the interests of the rapid support forces. This is part of the dysfunction inherent in international politics and the attempt to exploit international institutions to pressure free nations and impose imperialist policies.
Kojali says Sudan's gold sector is largely in private hands.
Gold investment in Sudan is linked to private companies, and the Sudanese government only receives taxes and various fees from these investments. It is not pure gold that the Sudanese government extracts and exports.
Economic experts say restrictions on Sudanese gold exports may affect international trade routes, but are unlikely to force policy changes by the government.
It is possible to restrict Sudanese gold exports to Europe through statements and legal channels. Ultimately, markets are open and exports can flow, although the cost of exporting and the materials used in gold extraction may increase. These sanctions will certainly not be able to force the Sudanese government's hand. In fact, they may cause Sudan to lose these markets for gold exports.
Gold exporters also argue that sanctions are political decisions that could affect thousands of workers in the private sector.
We believe that their primary objective is political, as this sector is primarily comprised of private sector employees representing 90% of its workforce. The international community should condemn the rapid support forces smuggling of gum arabic and gold to their companies in other countries. Through this smuggling of resources, they are financing the war.
As Sudan's war continues, control over natural resources remains a central issue, one that reflects both economic stakes of the conflict presently and the country's future development.
That was Sharon Barunga reporting. At least 88 migrants have died after the border rush hit Spain's North African enclave last week. Most of the estimated 60,000 people who rushed into Ceuta have returned to Morocco, but thousands still remain. Ken Brown reports.
Immigration, desperation. Migrants fight over food brought to Benitez Beach in Ceuta. Many say they haven't eaten in days.
3 days, no food. Only water.
While the majority of Moroccans who poured over the border on Thursday have now returned, there are still many hundreds, potentially thousands of others still here, mostly from sub-Saharan Africa. The question is, what happens to them?
The Spanish military continues to round up migrants to bring them to the border, those who are willing to leave at least. There are people here from Somalia, Chad, Sudan, Tanzania, Eritrea, Yemen and beyond. A local NGO is collecting signatures from these migrants to send to the Spanish government to say there's nothing for them in Morocco and they can't go back.
I hope stay in Spain.
The military, do they tell you go back to Morocco?
Not back to Morocco, but no back.
On Thursday, most swam around Spain's border fence in unprecedented numbers. The Spanish government blamed migration mafias, the Moroccan officials, viral social media posts that promised open borders and free passage to the EU. But those who risked their lives were sold a lie. They only found hunger and rejection, and most returned. Questions remain over whether this entire tragedy was orchestrated and politically motivated. Local Ceutans, meanwhile, say they're suffering a collective trauma.
We are still in a total state of shock. We are overwhelmed. Our neighborhoods are full of people. We don't even know who they are.
It was painful to see our city attacked like this. We felt alone and abandoned by the rest of Spain.
We've had 3 sleepless nights in fear of what might happen, if they're going to try to break into our house. We've had people try already.
Ceuta is a small city in North Africa. They never take us into account. We feel abandoned. That's the word.
Those left behind face an uncertain future.
That was Ken Brown reporting. Families continued searching for missing loved ones on Monday, days after tens of thousands of migrants crossed from Morocco into Ceuta.
I have been looking for my son Ryan for 5 days now. When he heard the borders were opened, he left with a group of friends. The first day when he arrived in Suta, he contacted me to say he had reached the enclave. Since then, he has not contacted me.
I came here to the gate of Ceuta to look for my son. I've been waiting for him since last Friday. When he heard that the border was opened, he left. I'm waiting for him, but I have no news whatsoever about him.
Spanish authorities said at least 88 migrants died during the mass crossing, with some drowning and others killed in a stampede. Many others remain unaccounted for. The surges fueled a wider immigration debate in Europe, with Italy temporarily suspending its open border Schengen arrangement with Spain. And France also said it would strengthen border checks. Albania's Civil Protection Agency says wildfires broke out on Monday in Fenik municipality, causing widespread damage. Firefighters from Delvina, Fenik, and Konespol, joined by about 50 volunteers and 40 military personnel, are working to extinguish the blazes. The fires come as Europe faces an early and severe heat wave this year. Europe is the world's fastest warming continent, with temperatures rising more than twice the global average since the 1980s. The continent entered 2026 after its worst fire year on record, with more than 10,000 square kilometers burned in 2025. Local authorities say a wildfire that broke out Monday in a nature reserve in the Netherlands remains out of control. The blaze in the south of the country is burned about 21 hectares, or roughly 1/5 of the reserve, and could take several more hours to extinguish. No injuries or property damage have been reported, and the cause remains unknown. Coming up, a China-Germany youth football tournament in Jiangsu province.
Discover the realities and responses to our changing climate with Climate Watch. Uncover critical issues such as the Masai Mara's disrupted wildebeest migration and the drop in the Panama Canal's water levels. Delve into solutions for a sustainable future. Tune in to Climate Watch on your favorite podcast platform. Become more eco-conscious and take action to protect our planet.
It's 22 past the hour. The 9th China-Germany Under-16 football friendship tournament is finished in Nantong, Jiangsu province, bringing together young talents from both countries. Yang Guang earlier sat down with Klaus Schlappner, former head coach of the Chinese national team and one of the tournament's founders, to hear his thoughts on this year's event and the youth development of Chinese football.
Schlappner's relationship with Chinese football spans more than 3 decades. When he took over as head coach of the Chinese men's national team in 1992, he was the first foreigner ever to hold that position. In 2012, together with German and Chinese partners, Schlappner co-founded the U16 China-Germany Youth Football Friendship Tournament to mark the 40th anniversary of the diplomatic relations between the two countries. Now in its 9th edition, the tournament has brought together over 1,000 young players from more than 40 cities across both nations.
Every year is a new experience. We go to different cities and regions. But my overall impression here in Nantong is very positive. The pitches are professional, and the Chinese youth teams are exceptionally competitive. That wasn't always the case in the past. But now, watching today's game is truly impressive and well-balanced. It's a real battle against the German side. Total jungle out there. I'm genuinely delighted to see such a youth football landscape in China that can hold its own against the foreign teams. That kind of stability and quality will play a role in the national team as well.
For Schlappner, the value of this tournament extends far beyond the pitch. He sees the young players as ambassadors of a different kind.
I can speak for the German teams. They will go back and talk about China at their high schools, with their teachers, classmates and parents. Overall, they gain a completely different picture of China. A positive one. That simply wasn't the case for a long time, and in some ways, it still isn't. But they should experience China actively, directly on the ground, not through headlines, especially not the stupid, misleading ones. They should see not just the players, but also the people, the population, and recognize what has been achieved here over the last 30 years. How hard this nation has worked, how they rolled up their sleeves, and how they built this new China.
When asked about the talent he sees in Chinese youth football and the road ahead, Schlappner was optimistic, but clear on what needs to be done.
There are very good talents, physically strong players and technically skilled ones alike. You have to give them the chance to play overseas, but also here at home. They need to be trained with an international vision and in an international atmosphere. It's about China being present at the big international tournaments, starting with the youth level. This country deserves it, and its people deserve it.
The 9th edition of this tournament features teams from both countries competing in a series of matches and cultural exchange activities. Schlappner noted that events like these are about more than just football. They are about planting seeds for the future. For the Beijing Hour, this is Yang Guang in Nantong.
South Korea has raised its emergency alert level due to record high temperatures. The scorching weather has fueled interest in traveling to China to escape the heat. Shane Ham reports from Seoul.
The heat wave has been expanded. The warning has been expanded now, essentially nationwide. The hottest ever temperature recorded earlier on Sunday down in the city of Yangzhou of 42.5 degrees, the hottest ever since records were first kept back in 1904. But that coupled with peak holiday travel season right now, we're seeing an influx of outbound travelers, particularly to China. In fact, the numbers back that up. Between January and May, according to Incheon International Airport, the main gateway here in Seoul, the number of travelers to Japan, which still remains the #1 destination, increased 12.8%. In contrast, the number of travelers to China increased 20%, and to Southeast Asia, we saw numbers actually go down. So the figures are trending towards China becoming a much more popular destination for travelers. Also, there's been an expansion in the number of flights that are being offered by major carriers between ROK and Chinese cities. In fact, about a month ago, 70 new both passenger and cargo flights were added, linking not just Incheon International Airport to major cities in China, but also regional airports out of cities like Busan and Cheongju, as well, linking other smaller Chinese cities. And if you want to include also the fact that the number and the types of people that are traveling to China, long gone are the days when we saw elderly parents being sent on group tour packages to places like Jiangjiajie. Now we're seeing a much more younger demographic going to places, not just major cities, but other cities that are off the beaten path. And there are a number of reasons for that. You could point to the geographic proximity, but also higher travel costs. Of course, with higher oil prices, fuel surcharges are increasing, so more travelers are looking for places to go that are in the proximity, but still that are unfamiliar. And so that's why we're seeing places other than Japan and Southeast Asia as more attractive location for ROK travelers.
That was Shane Ham reporting. China's scenic areas with mild climate are introducing heart-pumping adventures that are proving to be a big hit with international travelers. Mist-shrouded mountain landscapes and ancient villages in Jiangxi province have long been a draw. However, foreign tourists are venturing deep into the Wuyi Mountains to ride the cliffside train and go whitewater rafting. Neighboring Zhejiang province takes the thrill up a notch with extreme sports from mountain karting to paragliding. And overseas visitors say the exhilarating experiences help them to beat the summer heat.
It's amazing. Even with this heat, the views are stunning and we get to raft. Totally worth it. Who'd have thought that a homebody like me could suddenly have this experience? Big thanks to my friend for bringing me here. I'm loving it.
I've never been anywhere this gorgeous. The air is so fresh. We like it here so much.
I'm so excited, because it's so much fun. And also the people, not just the game, it's the people. Everybody is happy, everybody's happy to play with you. That's why I'm so happy. I love it, and I think people need to come here and get this new experience, because we in South America, we don't have this kind of experience,
Well, since June, China's high-altitude destinations have led the country's inbound travel growth. We're at 29 past the hour. Beijing getting thunder showers this evening. Becomes cloudy tomorrow, low of 25, and it's up to 35 on Wednesday. Shanghai will be overcast tonight with a light rain developing tomorrow, a low of 27 and a high of 34. Chongqing gets clouds this evening, continuing through tomorrow, a low of 25, a high of 34. And Nanchang also cloudy tonight and tomorrow, a low of 29, the high is 37. Last is getting overcast skies overnight and tomorrow, a low of 12, the high is 24 degrees. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will see a light rainfall through tomorrow with a low of 25 and a high of 35 for Wednesday. Vientiane will see heavy rainfall through tomorrow, a low of 24 and a high of 28 degrees. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, Iran denies any meetings or negotiations with the U.S. and says it'll defend its sovereignty from American aggression. 25 U.S. states have filed suit against the Trump administration over the president's Section 301 tariffs on most trading partners in the 9th China-Germany Under-16 football friendship tournament in Jiangsu province. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
The transition to a greener future is no longer a distant goal. It's happening now. In power plants, factories, farms, and cities across China. As the world grapples with climate change, energy security, and the growing demand for electricity, China is searching for new ways to cut emissions while keeping its economy moving. Across the country, our reporters visit renewable energy hubs, industrial centers, and agricultural communities to see what that transformation looks like in practice. Through first-hand stories and on-the-ground reporting, we explore the opportunities, the challenges, and the ideas shaping China's green transition. Listen to China's Green Code, Rewriting the Rules of Growth, a special series from Climate Watch, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Tuesday. Still to come. In business, rapid growth for China's artificial intelligence sector. In sports, a rising tennis star makes history at the DC Open. In culture and entertainment, Chinese artistic traditions and innovations are on display in New York City. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTNradio. You're also welcome to subscribe to our Substack newsletter Beyond Beijing for the world's biggest stories, along with sharp insights and exclusive analysis. First, checking the day's headlines, and China's aiming for non-fossil power generation, accounting for 50% of total electricity output by 2030. A national plan for the sector during the 15th five-year plan period is also targeting the initial establishment of a new power system. China aims to enable the high-level integration of more than 2.8 billion kilowatts of new energy capacity into the grid and build a charging network that's capable of supporting over 110 million electric vehicles. Diplomatic efforts are intensifying as Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan hold high-level talks to de-escalate tensions. The Iranian foreign minister has held separate phone calls with his Saudi counterpart and Pakistan's chief of army staff. Tehran says the talks revive the latest diplomatic initiatives aiming to maintain security and stability across the region. 6 supertankers under Saudi Arabia's flag have changed course after Yemen's Houthis threatened to target Saudi shipping. Tracking data shows the tanker is sailing towards southern Africa instead of going through the southern Red Sea via the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. The new route's expected to add at least 25 more days of sailing time to the journey. The empty tankers are returning after delivering cargo to destinations in Asia. In Gaza, ceasefire efforts remain stalled, with Israel and Hamas divided over the terms of the agreement. Israel's parliaments extended the military's emergency mobilization order until September 30th, allowing the army to call up as many as 240,000 reservists. Israel says its troops will remain in Gaza until Hamas is fully disarmed and its tunnel network dismantled. Hamas says any discussions on weapons depends on Israel halting its military operations and withdrawing under the ceasefire agreement. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has dismissed Ukraine's ambassador to the United States. Olga Stefanishina has served as ambassador since last year. She said she requested leave for personal reasons. The move comes amid a government reshuffle and as Kyiv seeks continued U.S. military support. No successor has been announced. Recent Zelensky-Trump talks have focused on air defense cooperation and efforts to end the Ukraine-Russia conflict. 25 U.S. states have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over Section 301 tariffs. They say the president exceeded legal authority by imposing sweeping tariffs on goods from 60 trading partners. The complaint challenges the recently enacted levies of 10 to 12.5% on the vast majority of goods imported from the affected economies, which collectively account for 99% of U.S. imports. The legal challenge centers on the administration's efforts to preserve Trump's broad tariff regime after federal courts rejected two earlier versions imposed under different statutory frameworks. The coalition has asked the U.S. Court of International Trade to block the tariffs, declare them unlawful, and order refunds for the duties already paid. A Reuters Ipsos poll shows that Americans view Democrats as better stewards of the economy than Republicans for the first time in nearly a decade. About a quarter of the voters surveyed said they were unsure or believed a different party would do a better job. The report noted that Republicans held the advantage on the economy through most of President Donald Trump's first term in office, throughout Democratic President Joe Biden's 4 years in power, and into Trump's second term. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration certified Boeing 737 MAX 7 and authorized its production, following almost a decade of extensive review. The FAA performed or reviewed work involving flight controls, system safety assessments, and human factors. The agency said its safety inspectors will remain on site at Boeing production facilities to closely monitor the manufacturing process. Dozens of Spokane residents in the U.S. state of Washington are waiting anxiously at checkpoints for a chance to return home, check on loved ones, and retrieve essential items after wildfires destroyed parts of their neighborhoods. Some residents describe the devastation as overwhelming, with burned homes, damaged vehicles, and entire blocks reduced to ashes. Around 700 buildings have been destroyed, with the number expected to rise. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in business, rapid growth for China's artificial intelligence sector.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
We're 36 past the hour. Chinese mainland stocks closed higher on Tuesday. The Shanghai Composite Index rose more than 0.3%, while the Shenzhen Component Index gained around 3.3%. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index fell more than 0.7%, and Japan's Nikkei gained around 0.3%. China's artificial intelligence industry is growing rapidly. Its market size exceeded 1.2 trillion yuan, or roughly $180 billion last year, up 40%. The country now has more than 6,600 AI companies, accounting for roughly 15% of the global total. China's developed a complete AI industry chain covering infrastructure, AI models, and applications from different fields. Industries such as manufacturing and services are adopting AI more widely, and China says it'll continue promoting its AI Plus initiative to expand its use across the economy and society. Artificial intelligence is changing China's gaming industry, transforming how games are created and produced. Industry data shows AI is helping developers cut costs, speed up production, and boost revenues. Li Choyuan has more.
Artificial intelligence is rapidly reshaping China's gaming industry. Data from research institute C&G suggests AI could create up to $12 billion in new market value. And today, 80% of China's top 50 game companies by revenue have already started using AI to assist development. Industry data shows AI can reduce development time and labor by up to 70%, while cutting development cycles and costs significantly. And leading developers are already seeing the benefits. The company 37 Interactive Entertainment says AI now handles more than 80% of its 2D art production. Kingsoft World Tour says AI assists with over 90% of its code development. AI is also driving stronger business performance. In the first half of 2026, 15% of China's top 100 gross mobile games featured AI gameplay. And that 15% generated over 42% of total revenue.
This is Li Choyuan reporting. Chinese AI startup DeepSeek's intensified competition in the artificial intelligence market with the launch of its low-cost V4 Flash model. The new model focuses on improving tool use, task planning, code development, and AI agent capabilities. Benchmark tests show that it's one of the most affordable advanced AI models, costing much less to run than leading global AI systems. Meanwhile, Alibaba's unveiled a new AI model, describing it as the company's largest and most capable model so far. The model ranks second globally in visual AI benchmarks for analyzing images and other visual content. It also can process text, images, and videos at the same time. ByteDance has also launched a new AI video generation model that can create videos of up to 30 seconds. China's inbound tourism markets continued to grow this year, driven by diverse cultural experiences and more convenient services, including instant tax refunds for overseas visitors. Major border checkpoints have seen steady passenger flow since June. In the first half of the year, China's total border crossings surpassed 10 million, and that was up 10%. Sightseeing, business activities, and family visits remain the main reasons for international arrivals. Wu Cheng has a story.
Customs data from Beijing shows a surge in tourist spending, with the city processing over 110,000 tax refund applications in the first half of 2026, a staggering 567.7% jump year-on-year. Total sales of duty-free goods exceeded 900 million yuan, up nearly 50%. Since the start of summer, European and American visitors have been increasingly choosing family-based self-guided tours thanks to visa waiver policies and easier mobile payment.
We didn't join a tour group, we traveled independently. Everything is fine. There are all kinds of apps so we can book rides easily. The hotel is comfortable and the staff are very helpful.
At Beijing Silk Street Market, foot traffic from overseas shoppers has jumped eightfold compared to the same period last year, according to the mall's management. Top-selling items include electronics and summer gadgets, like smart fans.
Up to now this year, the number of foreign visitors to our market has grown by 800% from last year. Products like electronics and cooling devices, smart fans, for example, are hot sellers.
From traditional souvenirs like silk and tea to smart devices and tech products, the expansion of tax refund and payment convenience is making shopping in China easier than ever for international travelers.
We can also put the cards on your phone, so it's easy and you don't have to worry about any extra change or anything. So very straightforward.
This year, the Ministry of Commerce, together with the Ministry of Finance and the State Taxation Administration, issued new measures to enhance the departure tax refund process and boosting inbound consumption. In Beijing, supporting services including instant tax rebates and cross-border mobile payments have been continuously upgraded. The city now operates 7 centralized refund counters, 51 instant refund stores, and over 1,600 tax refund outlets, with each transaction now completed in under 2 minutes.
That was Wu Cheng reporting. And for more insights into China's growing inbound tourism market, Lincoln Humphreys spoke with Wang Rui, Associate Professor of Marketing at the Guanghua School of Management, Peking University.
So Chinese consumers once sought European and American products, say, through overseas shopping. Now, reverse overseas shopping, if you will, or foreign consumers buying Chinese goods is rapidly gaining traction. How should we interpret this growing global appeal of Chinese products?
They are starting to buy more stuff other than silk, teapots, these traditional Chinese products. So smartphones and technology devices and also some smart fan products are very popular among these tourist consumers. That actually shows that, the made in China concept has bring kind of a shift from traditionally as a traditional Chinese products, and also probably has the label for cheap and very basic functions, and now into more tech functions, high-tech, smart designs, mobile payment, and also tax refund. These policies also bring the facilities for the tourism. They tend to buy more stuff other than these traditional Chinese products.
So which sectors, you mentioned smartphones and tech there earlier, are leading this trend, and what product categories or perhaps consumer needs are driving the momentum?
These are kind of, with high technology elements, these kind of products are really getting popular, and they are not only good in terms of the high-tech functions, but also they are really good in price. That's one sectors we're seeing super popularity, not only for foreigners buying products in China, but we also, if we check the export data, that is showing the export also increasing in these kind of sectors. The other thing is also we are seeing the rise of the Chinese design products. So a very famous brand called Pop-Mart. So this is kind of, smart design in terms of the Chinese toys, giving their 40% of the revenue coming overseas. Lastly, I would say the experience, especially when travelers not only travel in groups, they want to travel independently. So they want to experience some Chinese lifestyle. So we have seen some in Shanghai. There is one shop selling this milk tea called Mocha Wang. They are getting quite popular and viral on social media. That basically shows, and also some Chinese noodle, mahjong noodle. So basically shows these kind of Chinese lifestyle experience products and also services getting popular. These kind of a sector also associated with the tourism industry as well.
I was Wang Rei from Peking University. China's logistics sector continued to grow in July, showing steady economic activity despite weather challenges. The country's logistics market index stood at 50.4 last month. Although it was slightly lower than June, it remained above the 50-point mark, indicating expansion. New orders continued to rise for the fifth month. Industrial logistics also saw steady growth driven by sectors including transportation equipment, electronics, electrical machinery, and smart home appliances. The summer travel season also boosted logistics demand, with more shipments of tourism products, local specialties, and fresh produce. However, severe weather, including typhoons, affected air routes, waterways, and long-distance transport. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, a rising tennis star makes history at the DC Open.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
46 past the hour, turning to sports now. In tennis, Alexandra Ilas made tennis history. The 21-year-old won her first WTA singles title at the DC Open, rallying past Jessica Pegula in straight sets in a rain-delayed final. She's the first Filipina to win a tour singles title. She defeated all three top seeds en route to that trophy.
First and foremost, it's an achievement for myself. It's a personal achievement. I've worked really hard, and winning a 500 is insane. It's an incredible milestone for me. And, at the beginning of the week, there's no way I would have thought that I would be holding this trophy. And, even at the beginning of the year, it's just, these things kind of creep up on you. And yeah, I hold these moments really close to me.
On the men's side, Taylor Fritz won his first title of the season at the DC Open. The American beat Spanish teenager Rafael Hodar 6-4, 7-6 in straight sets. It's Fritz's first title above the 250 level in nearly 4 years and his fourth final of this year. The 28-year-old will rise to world number 8. At just 19, Hodar breaks into the top 20 for the first time, and he's aiming to become the third player to qualify for the ATP Finals 1 year after playing the next-gen finals. In other tennis news, China's Zheng Shuai has reached the second round of the WTA National Bank Open in Toronto. The 37-year-old Chinese veteran beat Yulia Putintseva 6-4, 6-1. Zheng snapped a 7-match losing streak against her opponent. She'll next take on Elena Ostapenko for a place in the third round. Venus and Serena Williams are set to make their WTA Cincinnati Open doubles debut later this month after being awarded a wild card to play together for the first time since the 2022 U.S. Open. The Williams sisters have claimed 14 Grand Slam doubles titles, including 6 at Wimbledon, along with 3 Olympic golds. They last played together 4 years ago at Flushing Meadows, where they lost in the first round. Last month, the American pair had to withdraw from the doubles draw at Wimbledon due to 44-year-old Serena's knee injury. The 23-time women's major champions' highly anticipated return to Grand Slam singles action at the All England Club after 4 years away ended with a first-round defeat against Maya Joint. 46-year-old Venus also received a singles wildcard for the Cincinnati tournament. China's Zheng Qinwen has announced her withdrawal from qualifying. The 2024 Paris Olympics gold medalist is coming off a loss last week to eventual champion Alexandra Ila in the first round of the DC Open. In football, China's under-17 men's team beat Arsenal 3-2 at the Shanghai Future Star Cup opener at Pudong Stadium. Zhao Songyuan scored twice, first with a solo goal in the 23rd minute, then doubling the lead early in the second half. Arsenal fought back through Jaden Oba and Emerson Nwaneri to level at 2-2. But in stoppage time, Xiao Qianxi's header hit the bar and substitute Chang Shenghan headed in the rebound for a dramatic winner. Jordan Henderson signed a 2-year deal with Chelsea after mutually terminating his contract with Brentford. The 36-year-old midfielder captained Liverpool to Premier League and Champions League glory during his Anfield days. He moved to Saudi Arabia in 2023, then to Ajax in 24, before returning to the Premier League last season with 32 appearances. Henderson has 91 England caps since 2010 and played in 7 major tournaments, including the Euro 2021 final. He also became the first Englishman to feature in 4 World Cups. The veteran joins 35-year-old Danny Welbeck as another experienced signing for Chelsea this summer. The chairman of snooker's governing body, the WPBSA, says he's happy with the sport's development in China. Jason Ferguson is also impressed by Chinese players, particularly that of Wu Yizi and Zhao Xintong, who won the last 2 world championships.
To be honest, it fills me with pride. I see these young players coming through. I'm lucky enough to have known some of them since they were very, very young, and it fills me with great pride to see the performances today out in the international field. Snooker has reached a new level. The standard of play today is the best we've ever seen in the history of the game, and we have to thank some of these young Chinese players for that. Players like Zhao Xintong, Wu Yizi, and the many, many young players following in their footsteps. It really is a good time for snooker.
Well, Ferguson believes snooker is perfect for the Olympics and has also shared his perspective about China's role in the sport's future development.
I think China can play a major part in our application to the Olympic Games. I think we've built one of the biggest sports in one of the biggest nations in the world, and for that we're very proud. Our sport is perfect for the Olympic Games. China will play a big part in that, and I have no doubt that one day our athletes will not only compete for world championships, not only compete to win their professional tour cards, one day they will compete for their nation on the greatest stage in sport, the Olympic Games.
And Judd Trump defeated defending champion Kyron Wilson on Sunday to win the Shanghai Masters. Ferguson says fans in Shanghai are among the fairest in the world. China's women's basketball team is aiming for another deep run at next month's World Cup in Berlin, 4 years after finishing as the runner-up in Sydney. Head coach Gong Luming says the tournament is part of a long-term plan to peak at the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. The squad features rare depth at center with Han Shu, Li Yueru, teenage phenom Zheng Ziyu, and Liu Yutong. China narrowly lost 2 exhibition games to Australia last month, with Zheng posting back-to-back double-doubles. Drawn in a tough group, China will face the defending champion United States, the Czech Republic, and Italy. The World Cup runs from September 4th to the 13th. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, Chinese artistic traditions and innovations are on display in New York City.
Pause Plus, a selection of the best podcasts in China, covering history, customs, music, literature, and in-depth dialogues. Find your way to a wealth of Chinese culture and thinking, all on Pause Plus.
53 past. In culture and entertainment, this summer, some of the most prestigious stages in America are being transformed by music, dance, and storytelling from China, and they're attracting audiences curious to experience Chinese culture through the arts. Karina Mitchell reports.
In New York City, China is taking center stage, not through politics, but through performance. Dance, music, and centuries-old traditions reimagined for these audiences.
I was just thrilled to see how inventive they were, how joyful, how skilled, how entrancing the work was.
Chinese Arts Week is the inaugural effort by Lincoln Center's Summer for the City series. to spotlight the diverse tapestry of China's ancient artistry fused with modern creativity in one setting. Everything from heritage dance to contemporary choreography, even hip-hop and kung fu, all on full display. It's one of several major Chinese culture events touring the United States this year.
Arts and culture is the language that bridge, even if the spoken language are different, even the written language are different, but people understand. When it's celebrating, it's sharing the moments of joy, the moments of the same emotion, that's what the arts and culture can do for us.
One of the festival's highlights, Mindscape, a new cross-cultural collaboration between Shenwei Dance Arts and Guangdong Modern Dance Company, billed as a spiritual landscape that aims to unite humanity and nature.
The value of the human is, our civilization built by all different peoples. And for me, Western culture, Eastern culture, they have a beauty, maybe just a slightly different style or different point of view. I like to share the both beauty to all around the world.
Steps away, another performance. Hip-hop meets kung fu. Locking and popping mixed with centuries-old martial arts offers visual proof that cultures can evolve together. Whether exhibiting ancient folk traditions such as Yinga or lion dance, or musical moments from a Mongolian folk rock band, artists say keeping history alive and introducing their work to American audiences is a privilege and a priority, adding it offers a different conversation built not on discourse, but on dance, music, and emotion.
That was Karina Mitchell reporting. A Pakistani vlogger has been sharing his experiences in China and is giving travel suggestions for those to come. Jonas Ghazali has spent 9 years traveling across China, but it's Guangzhou that he now calls home. For first-timers, he recommends the iconic Canton Tower.
If this is your first time to visit Guangzhou, there are few places that I highly recommend. First is Canton Tower. This is huge, beautiful Canton Tower. This is a symbol of Guangzhou, and some people also called it Guangzhou Tower and Canton Tower. If you wanted to see the unforgettable view, you can also visit on the top of this tower.
Well, to beat the summer heat, he suggests local herbal teas. He also highlights the city's self-driving taxis, calling the AI technology impressive.
About the transportation in Guangzhou, I highly recommend to use the metro. But before going there, I want to show you something very, very interesting, which is a self-driving taxi. I do unlock over here and it's done. So I can get in. No driver.
We are about to start.
Nobody can control. Amazing. It locked the doors. I'm always impressed by the self-driving taxi. The car handles the road smoothly. It also recognizes the traffic situation, so it can change the lane, the speed. It made me feel very safe. And it is really nice to see how advanced AI technology is changing the future of transportation.
Ghazali also says Guangzhou perfectly blends tradition and modernity with great food, business opportunities, and a unique culture. After visiting many Chinese cities, he says Guangzhou offers an experience like no other, and he hopes that more visitors will go there. We're at 57 past the hour. Beijing getting thunder showers tonight, becoming cloudy tomorrow. A low of 25 and it's up to 35 on Wednesday. Shanghai will see overcast conditions overnight. A light rain coming in tomorrow. A low of 27, the high is 34. Chongqing's cloudy through tomorrow. A low of 25, a high of 34. Nanchang will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow. A low of 29, the high is 37. And Lhasa is overcast tonight and tomorrow. A low of 12 degrees, the high is 24 degrees Celsius. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, Iran denies any meetings or negotiations with the U.S. and says it'll defend its sovereignty from American aggression. And 25 U.S. states have filed suit against the Trump administration over the president's Section 301 tariffs on most trading partners. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
The best military commander is not he who fights 100 battles and wins every one of them. The best military strategy does not lead to the desiccation of the enemy's capital city. Decoding the art of war will help you understand why there's no art in war and how Sun Tzu stayed undefeatable using the science of war with fun stories and insightful breakdown of famous battles. Find Decoding the Art of War wherever you listen.
A poem for the Tibetan antelope, the gentle spirit of the Qinghai Seazong Plateau, spoken by voices from across the world. Every spring, female antelopes migrate hundreds of miles to Zhuonai Lake to give birth, as we build gentle passages for their journey.
Hello, little Tibetan antelope. Eyes opening to the light for the very first time.
To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower.
So much wonder calls for so much courage. But have no fear. The way home is right there, waiting for you.
From the snows of Kunlun to the winds of Tangula, the wilderness will teach me to be strong.
But the call of life itself never ceases.
A train runs toward the horizon. A road stretches through the wilderness.
The bridge that soars through the clouds is no barrier across the land, but a gateway to where I truly belong.
Tibetan antelope's hoofprints loosen the soil, letting snow melt sink into the earth.
Human presence passes through,
but we've never walked this land alone.